Hello, welcome. My name is Wheels, and I'll be taking you on this class, which is basically a general overview, or you can call it an introduction to Figma as a tool. So I'm aware you already have a Figma account. So if you don't have a Figma account, the first thing you want to do now is to head over to figma.com and register. Now, once you've registered and confirmed your account, you can go ahead and sign in. And once you sign in, it will bring you to Figma's dashboard. If you already have an account, just go to figma.com and sign in. And then once you sign in, it should bring you to this interface. So once you're on this interface, what I want you to go ahead and do now is to click on Design File. Okay, but before that, let me just talk a little bit about this interface if it's completely new to you. So once you're on this interface, you have this side where you have your account information. You have the search bar here which allows you to search for files, teams, or people, as it's written right there. You also have this tab here that allows you to see your recent files, and if you are on a team, you're going to find that team here. And now you have the public folder here, which is called draft. So this is where all your designs are going to be saved on the Figma free tier version. And right here you have a list of your favorite files. So when you favorite a file, you're going to find it right there. Right now it is empty because we've not worked on any file at the moment. And if you belong to any team or a design team, you're going to find it right here under teams. And on this particular place, you have the Figma template where you can see some where you have the FigJam template where you can see some basic things. I don't want you to click on anything here right now. Okay, coming here, you're going to see recently viewed files, shared files, and shared project. So right now I want you to go ahead and click on the design file. So let's click on this plus sign here, design file. Once you click on this, it's going to launch a new Figma file for you. So here we have a new Figma file, and I'm just going to introduce you to the interface, and by the end of this class we're just going to design a simple Figma design cover. So without further ado, let's go. So the first thing I want you to take a look at here is the folder and the file name. Okay, so here you have the folder at the top bar and the file name. Now this folder, you can't change it. Okay, if you're using the free version, you can't change it. All your designs are going to be inside this folder. But if you are using the pro version, you can actually see all the folders right there and select the folder where you wish to save this particular file. But for now, you're going to be saving your designs in draft. And here you have untitled, which is the name of this file. So the first thing you're going to learn now is how to name your files. So to name your files, all you need to do is to simply click inside, and we're going to name it Designgate UI UX Bootcamp. Okay, so we have it right there, Designgate UI UX Bootcamp, and right now we have this Designgate UI UX Bootcamp file. And if you click on this arrow right here, you are going to see other options, but I don't want you to really do anything here, but I'm just going to explain some of the things you have there. So the first thing here is show version history. So when you've edited this file multiple times, when you click on show version history, it's going to show you all the time you logged in and edited this file, and it also allows you to go back to a previous point in time, right? Let's assume you're actually working on this file, and for some reasons you couldn't find some pages or you couldn't find some designs, maybe you mistakenly deleted them. All you need to do is to go back, come here to show version history, and it's going to show you all the histories of that particular file. Then you can go backwards and find a version where you still have those design on. Okay, and export, we'll talk about export later. And then file color profile, just leave this as default. Duplicate, you should know what that means, to duplicate this particular file, to rename this file, move to a project, favorite this file, or delete this file. We'll talk about this later on in the program. Okay, but okay, so first let's now take a look at some other parts of the Figma interface. At the top bar here, we have some things here that I'm going to explain. Here you have your main menu. Okay, so when you click on it, you are going to see back to files. That when you click here, you're going to go back to that previous interface we just left. Okay, you're going to see information about the file, new design, new fig jam. Everything here is just as the name implies. Then you have your edits, where you have your copy, paste, undo. Okay, you have your views, you have your objects, text, arrange, vector, plugin, widget, preferences, library. Okay, we are going to come back to all these things later, but I just want to give you a general overview of Figma. Okay, and here, right here, you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now these are the primary tools Figma comes with, and I'm just going to do a general overview of these tools. Okay, we'll come back to them later. Okay, so later I'll come back to explain some of these tools, and we'll have a general overview of basically what they do. Okay, on this other side, we have your picture, the profile picture right here. Your profile picture right here, you can see it there, and here you have the share button. So in case you want to share this design file, this is the button you click on to share this design file with people. Maybe you want feedbacks, or you just want people to take a look at what you're doing, right? So share is where you come to share this particular file. Okay, when you click on share, it's going to give you like some options here, so you can actually enter the name. You can actually enter the emails of the people you want to invite over to come and view this particular file. And right here, you can choose the access level, can view, can edit. So when you choose can view, the person you are inviting can only view these designs, but they can't edit. Okay, they can view, they can drop comments, but they don't have access to editing the designs on the frame. But when you want someone to maybe design with you, you can use can edit. So once you use can edit, the person you're sending this invite to can actually edit this file. So you can just leave it here. So if you have specific people you want to invite, you can just type in their emails right there. But if you just want to share it to people, maybe you don't even have their emails, but you just want them to come on and check what you have, you can go ahead and just say anyone with this link and click on this copy link. So once you click on copy link and you set it to can view, right, anyone with this link can view, you are going to, once you send this link to anyone, they are able to view that design. Remember, they can't edit it. Okay, if you want them to edit it, you have to change the permission. Okay, so let's close this. And here we have the Figma, a new tool that was introduced this year, 2023. So you can actually switch from developer mode, from design mode, we are currently in design mode, to developer mode. So I'm just showing you this in case you mistakenly clicked on it and everything gets weird. So once you click on this developer mode, you can see things change drastically. Okay, everything changes drastically. So what I want to do is to click back on design mode. Okay, so make sure you're always on design mode. Okay, but if you notice that the interface changed, just take a look here and see whether you are on design mode. And right here we have our prototype view, and here you have your zoom levels. You can change the zoom properties right here on Figma. Okay, now the next thing we're going to talk about is the layer and assets and page panel. So on this panel you have the layers, and we'll come back to talk about layers in a later class. But layers are basically how your the elements you arrange on your frames, how they are sorted out or how they are ordered on that particular frame. Okay, and assets, basically when you're working with different things like pictures, components, styles, you're going to find these things on your asset tab. So you have to make sure when you click on layer, you are going to see something different, and also when you click on assets, you're going to see something different. And here we have page, right? So this is where you add page. Right now we are currently on page 1, and you can go ahead and click on it. Once you click on it, you see pages, and we have page 1. Now you can actually click on the plus sign to add a new page. So what we're going to do now, I want us to change the name of this page. So I'm just going to double click. So double click on this page, and let's save this and change it to cover. Okay, so let's type in cover right there. So another thing I want you to do now is to create 2 extra pages. So how do you do that? You click on the plus sign. Now you have page 2, but we're going to change that to components. Okay, enter. And I want us to click on the plus sign again. I want us to click on app. Okay, enter. And I want us to click on the plus sign again. I want us to type in website. Okay, enter. And click on the plus sign again. Okay, and I want you to type in presentation. Okay, so we have how many pages now? We have 5 pages: cover, components, app, website, presentation. Now it's important to know how when you're on a particular page, for instance, when you're on cover, you're going to see all the elements and designs you have on that particular page. So sometimes beginners tend to move to a different page and kind of get lost and say you hear them say things like, I can't find the design we're currently working on. Okay, so know how to navigate your pages. Okay, and you can actually move these things around by dragging them over each other. But let's bring this cover back up. Basically, to do that, you have to click, hold. Okay, click, hold, and drag. Okay, so you can see if I drop it here, the cover comes under the app. So I'm just going to take it back up. Okay, great. Awesome. So if you're here, congratulations, you are doing pretty well, and it's a good start here. So the next part we'll take a look at is this part right here. So basically this is where your design happens. Okay, but right now we don't have any design, and soon enough we're going to be having some design right there. Okay, next let's move to this panel right over here. So on this right panel you have the design tab and the prototype tab. Now it's important you know which tab you're currently on, right? So the design tab and the prototype tab. So right now when you're on the design tab, you're going to see the properties of whatever element you have on your page. Right now we don't have any element right here. Okay, so that is why it's displaying the properties of this file, this particular page, sorry. So it's displaying the properties of this particular page. So here we have the color. So you can actually click on this and change the color of this particular page background. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do now is let's change this to let's say 192. Okay, and D4, so 4E. So let's change it to 192 D4E. So this is the background we want to use for this particular page. Okay, now if I go back to my components page, you can see that it doesn't affect the components page. So you can actually change the color of each page once you're on that particular page. Now it's important to know that the reason why we're seeing this particular property right here is because we have not clicked on any elements. So when you click on an element on the page, on the design, when you click on an element on your design, you're going to see the property right here. Okay, so let's go back to our cover, and here we see local variables, local styles, and export. We'll talk about all these things later. Right now, I'm sure you've familiarized yourself with the Figma interface. The next thing we want to do now is to go ahead and take a look at these tools. Okay, so let's come back to these tools. So on these tools right here, we have the first tool here, which is move. And anytime you see a tool or a menu with these drop down arrows, it simply means more options. Okay, so let's click on this arrow. Here we have the move tool and the scale tool, right? The move tool is the default tool that allows you to move elements on your page around. Okay, while the scale tool is used to increase the size, but I'm going to teach you how to use the scale tool so you don't do things the wrong way. So let's go back to the move tool. The next tool here is the frame tool, and we'll come back to it. Okay, let's move over. We have the rectangle shape tool. So if you click here, you're also going to see different shapes. So the rectangle, the line, the arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, and then the place image or video tool. And we're just going to do something quick here. I want you to click on this and select the rectangle tool, and to draw you basically have to click, hold, and drag. Okay, now notice what happens when you click, hold, and drag. Right here on the layer panel you have rectangle. Okay, you have this rectangle 1. Now how do you change this? It's very important to always name your layers. So right here, instead of rectangle 1, let's go ahead and call it box. Okay, so remember, we're just trying things out. So right now we're just going to call it box, and that is how to name your layer. So it's important you name your layers as you design so that you can easily identify where things are on the layer panel. Okay, so here you can see immediately we drew something on this page. We now have the properties of that particular element. You can see it has changed. Now if I deselect this by clicking outside, this property is going to return back to the property of the page, right? But when I click on this element on this page, it's going to give me the property of this particular element. So the first thing we want to learn is how to, size these things properly. Right here on the design, you can see some of the tabs right here. We have the alignment tab. Okay, we'll take a look at this later. We have align left, align horizontal center, align right, and also we have the align top, align vertical center, and align bottom. Here we have the distribution properties. We'll take a look at those later. Here we have the position of this these elements on the page. On the x-axis we have it right here, and on the y-axis we have it right here. Now it's very unlikely you're going to use this to move things around a lot. Okay, it's very unlikely, but this is basically the position of this element on the x and y axis of this file. Don't think about it too much. Okay, the next one that is very important is the dimension of this particular file. Okay, so we have the width and the height. So here you can actually come here and specify the width and the height. And right now I want us to put in maybe 600 on the width. Click enter, and here you can put in something like maybe 400. Enter. So right now you have a rectangle shape that is 600 by 400 in dimension. Okay, now under here you have this little icon here that says Constraint Proportion. Now if you notice, I was able to type in the width and the height. If you want to be able to move these things proportionally, all you need to do is to lock here. Okay, now when I lock here, when I reduce this height to, let's say, 300, you notice that the width as well adjusts to 450. So right now I'm increasing them proportionally. But if you have this unlinked, you can actually manipulate the width and the height differently. Okay, and here you have the rotate. So if you want to rotate this, you can go ahead and type in 45 degree, and you have this at 45 degree. Okay, let's bring it back to 0. And the next thing here, very important, is corner radius. So this controls the corner of this shape. Okay, you can actually use this arc here to actually click, hold, and drag, but I want us to do things systematically in this class, especially for those of us that are beginning, that are absolute beginners. Okay, so to actually add a border radius to this is called border radius. All you need to do is to come here. Let's make it very drastic so you know what I'm talking about. So let's take 25, enter. Now you can see the radius of these rectangles. You can see the border radius arc at 25%. Okay, now let's make it 50, and you see what happens. The more you increase it, the more the border radius goes inside. Okay, so let's also look at something like 8. And 8, I have to deselect for you to actually see it. You can see how small it is right there. So that's border radius for you. Coming here, you have the layer property. So you can select how you want this particular layer to interact with the layers under it. So under layer, you can choose how this particular layer interacts with the layer beneath. Okay, you have different properties here, but we'll take a look at all this later. And right here where you have the 100%, it is the opacity of this particular layer. That's the transparency. Right now, if I go ahead and make it 50, you can see it becomes transparent. Okay, so that's what you use this particular thing for. Now sometimes you might mistakenly click something and you notice that the transparency have reduced, and you keep trying to change the color. You think maybe, oh, maybe I chose the wrong color, and you keep trying to change the color and it's not giving you that particular color. Maybe you even took it to the highest red, okay, but it's not just reading enough if there's something like that. So basically you want to check your transparency to see maybe you've mistakenly reduced the opacity of that particular layer. So let's come back here and take it back to 100, and right there we have this eye icon, which stands for visibility. So you can turn it off and also turn it back on. Okay, so one thing you also want to take note of, this can come in very, very handy. We'll take a look at instances where you can use this visibility as time goes on, but just know that you can turn off the layer here and you can turn it back here. Similarly, you can go right here on the layer and turn it on or turn it off. And just before I leave here, you can also see this key right here. So this is a lock layer key. So if I click on this key, you notice that I can't move this anymore, right? But if I want to move it, I just come back here and unlock it. Now I can click, hold, drag, and move. And the reason why I'm able to move is because, like I told you, the move tool is the default tool in Figma. So you can move things around always. So the next thing here is the fill tool. So on the fill tool, you can actually click here to change the color of this particular element. Remember from here, okay, so you have to remember here you choose your hue. You can choose your hue here, and let's go somewhere around blue. Okay, now you can now choose the shade of that particular blue you want. You can go up, you can go down, you can move around, but during the course of this training, we're not going to be choosing colors like this. You will learn the right way to choose color, but now we're just playing around. You can choose any color, okay, but for now I think let's just go with this yellow right here for now. Okay, so we're not really going to use this for anything, but for now let's go with this yellow. Okay, so the next thing you take a look at under hue, you notice something. This one, you notice this particular thing here. We're just going to skip this and come back to it later. But the next thing here you have is this plus sign. So you can actually apply more than one color to an element, and to do that all you need to do is to click on this plus sign, and now you notice the hue here. We have two hues. You can go ahead and choose another color, maybe red. So we're just giving it a shade red. Okay, now if you notice, when I clicked on red, it really didn't give me the red color, rather it's kind of just made the yellow color a little bit more orangey. Now the reason is because right here we have this on 20%. This is the transparency, and also every hue have their transparency control. So if I go ahead now and make this 100%, you can see we can't see the yellow anymore. So basically you can use this to blend some to blend colors, or to add like a tint or overlay. So let's go ahead and take this back to 20, and if you no longer want it, you can actually hide, or just you click on the minus sign to delete it entirely. Okay, and here we have the stroke. We have the stroke right here. The stroke is basically the outline. So you can click on this plus sign to add a stroke. Here you can choose the color of that particular stroke. Remember, this is a transparency. This controls the visibility, and you can use this to remove the stroke. So we have different types of stroke. Do you want it inside or outside or center? So for right now, let's just go ahead and make it inside. Now it's currently at 1 px. Okay, so let's go ahead and increase this to 10. Now it's important for you to know that when you're using the inside stroke, the width, the dimension of your shape doesn't change, the size. But now when you use something like outside, it is actually outside. So it has actually changed the size, the overall size of this particular shape, right? But it's not going to show right here. But then is actually there. You can see it has actually increased. Okay, so most of the time you want to use inside, so you know that okay, everything is still proportionally related. Okay, and here you can actually choose the stroke per side. So let's say I don't want this all round. I can actually come here and say okay, I just want this at the bottom. So right now you have this at the bottom. Let's make that color white, so we can actually see. You have this right here at the bottom. I can go to custom, and I want to say, okay, I want it 10 on that left hand side, and then on the bottom I also want it 10. So here we have this kind of effect right there. So but now I'm just going to go back to all, and that is how to apply a stroke to your object. Next is the effects panel. Remember, we're also going to come back to these things later. I'm just giving you like a general overview. Okay, now here we have the effects panel where you can have some effects. You know, we have different types of effect. You click on this plus sign here, you have an effect there. You have right now, we currently have the drop shadow effect. You can click on the drop shadow effect and see other types of effect, but we're not going to dwell much on this. I'm just going to click on this minus sign to remove it. Later on, we're going to talk about effects in details. Okay, now when you're done with your design and you want to start, you know, exporting your assets, or you want to just export that particular frame or that particular shape, okay, maybe you just want to share it on Twitter, on WhatsApp, or anywhere, you can come right here and click on this plus sign under export. Now once you click on this plus sign, you're going to have these different file sizes and at the different scale. Okay, so for now just leave it at 1x. Okay, you can now choose the file type, maybe PNG, JPG, SVG, PDF. We'll talk about the best format to use, but for now we're going to maintain PNG. Okay, and we're going to hit the export key. You can actually click on this preview to preview the layer you are currently trying to export, and then hit this export, and it's going to save, and you have your design right there. So I'm sure we've used this to actually cover this property panel in depth. So when you have a new shape, you come to the property panel to actually change a lot of things. So let's assume I draw another one here. Let's go here and click ellipse. Okay, so if I hold down my shift key, it's going to allow me to draw a perfect shape. But if I release the shift key, I can actually draw anything I want, any type of ellipse or circle. Okay, but I want you to hold down your shift key while drawing, so you have a perfect shape right there. Remember, if you want to change the dimension, all you need to do is to come here and let's make it 500 and enter. You can see, because we have this link here, you can see the height also is 500 automatically. Okay, so the next thing you want to do right here now is basically you still have these properties here, like the fill, the stroke, the effect, the export. I'm quite sure by now you are a little bit familiar with some of these properties. Okay, and let's go ahead and just hit delete right here. Select this also and delete. The next tool there is the pen tool. We're going to skip this for now and come back to this pen tool later on. I don't want you to stress yourself. Okay, as a complete beginner, you might not really have a lot of things to do with the pen tool, but we have a separate tutorial on this. Okay, remember, this is a UI UX bootcamp and not a graphic design bootcamp, but definitely you are going to use this tool, but not quite often, to be realistic. The next tool here is the text tool. Okay, so you can click on this text tool and then click on anywhere on your page to start typing. So let's say hello world exclamation mark, and there you go. I can zoom in. Now you can actually zoom in using your scroll wheel. You can zoom in using your scroll wheel, and that is it. That's how basically you want to type. And remember, since this is a text tool, we also have different properties right here. We have properties like the typeface, the style of the typeface. We have the size, so you can actually come here now and let's say increase this. You can click here to choose a number 64. So let me zoom backwards. I can use the number 64. Okay, so here is the font size 64. Okay, and then there are a lot of things you can do here, which we'll take a look at this later on in a later class. Okay, so we have the text tool here. Remember, you can still add a different color by basically coming here to choose the hue, and you can now choose whatever tint you want right here. Okay, whatever shades of that yellow you want. Okay, so select it back. There are a lot of things you can do here. You can set the line height and the letter spacing. I will leave you to explore some of these, but in case you lost, Okay, let's assume you start exploring and things start looking weird. You just come back here, make this auto and make this 0%, and you should be good to go. We'll take a look at all these things in a later class, okay? But you can just go ahead and explore. You have the alignment here: align left, align right, center, align right. And when you click on this particular menu right here, you can see the type settings, where you have things like resizing, alignment, decorations, case, and what have you, details and variables. I don't want you to come into this particular place right now, okay? We'll take a look at all these things later. So basically that's the text tool, and I'm going to hit delete to delete this. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, which is basically the resources. So we're going to skip this for now, and also we'll talk about this later on, okay? And we have the hand tool. Basically the hand tool, you can use it to pan around. So let's go back to our move tool. And comment, you can use this to add comments to your designs, or maybe leave a design on someone else's project, okay? So basically this is what we have under the tools. Now if you want to do something else outside the capabilities of these basic tools, all you need to do is to use a Figma plugin. So you come to File, you go to Plugin, and then you can see different types of plugin you have. But now for you it might be empty, so all you need to do is to click on Manage Plugin. But don't worry about this, also we'll come back to this later on, okay? So we just want to know the basics, okay? So the next thing we're going to talk about is the most important thing right here on Figma, and that is the frame. So let's go ahead and click on that frame. So once you click on frame, it's going to give you these properties. So this is actually where you put in the size of whatever you want to design, okay? The frame is the most important thing. In fact, everything you're going to be doing on Figma is going to be frames. Okay, it's going to be frames, except when you're just, if it is just maybe illustration or a kind of graphics for just aesthetics, okay? But every component you're going to be designing on Figma is going to be frames. So when I click on this frame tool, you can see the property first. The property here is asking me, what type of frame do I want to use? So there are different types of frame. Like you can go ahead and click on phone, and you can see different phone sizes, okay? These are just going to give you different sizes. You can click on tablet, you see different tablet sizes. Let's assume I go back to phone right now, and I click on, let's say, iPhone 14. It's going to give me the iPhone 14 size, okay? The iPhone 14 size. Now you could actually click here and draw a frame of any shape and size you want, okay? But this is very, very unlikely, okay? So let's delete that for now. So let's also go ahead and delete this. So what I want you to do is to click on this frame. Now if you're designing for desktop, we have a class on frame entirely. If you have if you are designing a desktop, maybe a website or a web app, you come right here and choose your device size. If you're working basically on a presentation, you come here and choose your presentation size. If you are working on iOS watch, you can come here and choose the iOS watch size. Now if you're working on a print design, you can come here and choose the print size, okay? Social media graphics, you have Twitter posts, Facebook, Instagram, dribble shots, you come here and choose it. Now you have Figma community, and also you have archive here. These are older sizes, okay? So when you come to Figma community, you're going to see plugin icon, profile banner, plugin file, cover, okay? So depending on what you want to work on, so you choose the right frame for it. But if what you're designing is like a custom size, let's assume that I just want to design something that is of a custom size. Yes, in that case, I can now go ahead and draw out, click, hold, drag, draw out my frame. I can even come here and say maybe 900, and on my height, I want to give it like 410. Okay, so right here, you can see I'm able to enter these things individually because this link here, this constraint proportion right here is not linked, okay? But once it's linked, you are actually going to be able to move them proportionally. And if you take a look at it closely, you notice that it's almost having the same property with the shape properties. So you want to be sure you are using frame when creating components or when creating your designs, and not shapes. Shapes are basically what they do when you want to draw illustrations, when you want to add maybe some minor aesthetics to your design. That is when you use shapes, right? But when you're designing things like buttons, when you're designing things like cards, we'll talk about all these things later. Make sure you always use frames, okay? And you can also see the fill right here, and the stroke, the effect, and then you can also export it. So this is basically what you want to know about frames. And the last thing I'm going to talk about now is right here. You can see that on this frame you have something called clip contents. So let's assume I have a shape right here. Let me click back on this shape. Let's call this one, okay, let's just call this page, or let's call it, look, let's just leave it as frame 1. Then I have this ellipse here. Let me go ahead and give this ellipse color red. Okay, now what you notice is that if I move this ellipse inside this frame, you see that it becomes a child of this frame. So we'll take a look at this later on, but just know this: when you have a frame, anything you put inside that frame, any element you put inside that frame becomes a child. So you can even have a frame inside a frame. Okay, you can have a frame inside a frame, and whichever one is at the top level becomes the parent, and every other thing inside becomes the child. So you can actually have a frame inside a frame, and a frame inside another frame. Okay, so that's the relationship between frames and other elements inside the frame. So right here now, since we have this circle right inside this frame, you can see that we have things like the alignment here. So I can take this to the left hand side of the frame, or to the center, or to the right, and I can take it to the top, to middle, or to bottom. So this is very important for you. It helps you to align things better. So I can go ahead and say, okay, center here, and also here, middle. Okay, so basically this is how frames work, and later on we're going to talk about things like the constraint and every other thing. So for now, I just want us to take these things easy, so you are able to comprehend what we are doing so far. So before we move to the next section, I would like you to take some time to explore, draw different shapes, give it different colors, try different stroke width. For now, just do a lot of things because you're still going to delete it after all. So just go ahead and play, and I will see you in the next section.